Hello everyone, we are going to understand about menstrual cycle, but before starting, let's have a look on some basic concepts. For example, it has divided into three phases. First one is menstruation, then there will be a follicular phase, then luteal phase. And this is showing uterine events. This is the uterine wall, specifically endometrium. And this is what? This is ovarian hormone, means estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen coming from the follicle and progesterone coming from the corpus luteum. But this corpus luteum is in fact produced by this Graafian follicle. Then this is the ovarian events, in which you can see the growth of the follicle, and this is pituitary hormone. See, this is the endometrium and this is ovary. In other word, we can say this is the gonad. Now what you have to understand is, when any girl reach to the puberty, this hypothalamus will secrete GnRH. Now why this is called as a GnRH? Because this gonadotrophin releasing hormone is working on the pituitary. Now you people are very well aware about, because you have completed chapter number 22 of class 11, where you have learned that hypothalamus releasing two type of hormone. One is releasing hormone and one is inhibitory hormone. So releasing hormone will work on the pituitary in a positive manner, while this inhibitory hormones will work on the pituitary in a negative manner. Means it will inhibit the secretion of the pituitary, and this will stimulate pituitary to secrete various hormone, right? So this is GnRH. It is one type of releasing hormone, and because this GnRH secreting that type of hormone which is working on the gonad, for example FSH and LH, that is why this is known as a gonadotrophin releasing hormone. So you don't need to do rote reading about the name, right? So once there is a little amount of follicle stimulating hormone is already there, and as you can see here, the follicle, and again why this is known as a follicle stimulating hormone, because this hormone is stimulating the growth of follicle, or it is stimulating the follicle. That is why it is known as a follicle stimulating hormone. So this, as you can see here, the follicle stimulating hormone is increasing, and that is why the size and growth of this follicle will also increase. And again you have to know one thing, that this estrogen is coming from this follicle. So as the size of follicle will increase, the amount of this estrogen will also increase, as you can see here. Now what you have to understand is, this estrogen, it is working as a postman for the hypothalamus. So once the amount of estrogen is increased inside the blood, so this hypothalamus is get to know. What it get to know? Now it is time to break this follicle. It is Graafian follicle, right? Now it is Graafian follicle. So the increased amount of estrogen is indicating to the hypothalamus, now it is time to break this Graafian follicle, because there is need to do ovulation, right? Secondary oocyte has to be released from this Graafian follicle. So what this hypothalamus will do, one, this estrogen will indicate this hypothalamus, and this hypothalamus will secrete GnRH, more GnRH, and this GnRH will secrete this LH from the anterior pituitary, and this luteinizing hormone. That is why 14 days, you can see at 14 days this is known as LH surge, means the maximum secretion of luteinizing hormone. And this LH will break this Graafian follicle. But you have to note one thing, that at initial stage there is no progesterone or very less amount of progesterone. That is why this uterine wall cannot proliferate, so it will breaking down, and the vessels found inside this uterine wall, it is also breaking down, and it will release in the form of menstruation. So from up to 3 to 5 days, right, this is menstruation, and this follicle is keep growing. So from this 5 to 14 15 days, it is follicular phase, means proliferative phase, we can say. Now this follicle converted into a corpus luteum. Why it is converted into corpus luteum? Because this LH had break this follicle. Why this LH break this follicle? Because this hypothalamus get to know there is increased amount of estrogen. Why this amount of estrogen is increased? Because this follicle developed completely, that is why. Now once this Graafian follicle converted into a corpus luteum, so earlier it was releasing estrogen. Now this corpus luteum will release, instead of estrogen it will release progesterone. That is why you can see here this uterine wall, here you can see this uterine wall is keep growing or proliferating. Now this phase is known as a luteal phase or secretory phase. Why? Because this corpus luteum is keep secreting this progesterone. But if there will be a no here, if there will be a no fertilization, so this corpus luteum will synchronize, and because synchronization of this corpus luteum, it will lead to the low amount of progesterone, because corpus luteum it is ultimate source of progesterone, that is why. And as this progesterone will decrease, so you can see here this uterine wall will no longer nourish, because progesterone is, the amount of progesterone it is very low. So again after luteal phase there will be a starting of next menstrual cycle. So these all things are connected with each other. Let's do fast revision. First you have to understand what thing. You just need to look at that at initial level there is a already little amount of follicle stimulating hormone. So this FSH as it is increasing, so this follicle will be growing, and this follicle will grow, so more amount of estrogen will release, because it is coming from the follicle, and this estrogen will be work as a postman for the hypothalamus, and that is why this hypothalamus will send this LH by pituitary. So 14 day you can see the LH surge, and this LH will break this this follicle, and that is why now this follicle will convert into a corpus luteum. So before, earlier it was secreting this estrogen, so now it will secrete progesterone, and this progesterone will, it is responsible for the nourishment of this uterine wall. That is why you can say, you can see here that uterine wall is keep growing. But once, if there will be a no fertilization, this corpus luteum will be synchronized, and this corpus luteum, synchronization of this corpus luteum will lead to the low secretion of progesterone, and as there is no any progesterone, that is why the uterine wall will be break, blood vessels will be break, this corpus luteum will be degenerate, and it will release out in the form of menstruation. Hope this video it is helpful to you. Thank you for watching.